Buon pomeriggio Italia, buonasera Italia, buon pomeriggio Canada, bonjour à tous, good morning everyone. I'm very happy to host this webinar, and I think we could be very proud of this fruitful collaboration between the Italian Cultural Institute and the Association of Italian Canadian Writers. For this webinar, we have the collaboration in the same time of the University of Torino, and welcome Professor Carmen Concilio, but in the same time we have another Italian, I think, speaking from Italy, is Maria Cristina Seccia from the University of Udine. The subject of this webinar is so interesting and exciting. The traces we leave, Italian Canadians and their works. Of course, all the painters, the writers, are the intention to leave traces, and traces in the milieu of writers is writing in all the forms we can imagine. My golden rule is to save time. That's the reason because I introduced Licia Canton, who is a well-known writer, and Licia received a PhD from the University de Montréal. She's a well-known writer, published more than 10 books, including The Pink House and other stories. Licia is an honorary fellow in translation at the University of Hull, and she was a visiting professor and writer in residence at the University of Calabria. And for her work in culture, Licia received in 2018 a very prestigious Premio Italia nel Mondo, just to testify the hard activity Licia dedicated to this important human activity. Thanks a lot to all the distinguished speakers, and namely to Carmen Concilio, to Maria Seccia, Licia Canton, Gianna and Arianna Dagnino, and finally our friends Joseph Pivato, John Calabro, and Vincenzo Pietropaolo. Take the floor, Licia, to start this afternoon webinar.
Grazie direttore Francesco D'Arelli e grazie all'Istituto Italiano di Cultura di Montréal per l'accoglienza e la disponibilità. Buonasera agli amici e colleghi che ci seguono dall'Italia. Io sono a Montréal, più precisamente a Saint-Léonard, il territorio canadese dove più persone parlano l'italiano in Canada. Bonjour à nos amis et collègues francophones et bienvenue. Thanks to everyone who is here today, speakers and attendees. Welcome to The Traces We Leave, Italian Canadians and Their Works, a preview of the AICW's 18th Biennial Conference hosted by Professor Carmen Concilio of the University of Torino. The organizing committee also included the AICW's Maria Cristina Seccia, Domenico Beneventi, and myself. We were supposed to be in Torino today, but most of us are not, unfortunately. We are all on different territories at this time. I'd like to acknowledge that I am located on unceded Indigenous lands. Jojage, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. We acknowledge them and other nations who care for the land across our country, recorded and unrecorded. And we pay our respects to Canada's first storytellers. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Maria Cristina Seccia and Carmen Concilio. Dr. Seccia is a research fellow at l'Università degli Studi di Udine, where she is currently working on the research project translating and self-translating the mother in Italian-Canadian women's writing. She has researched on the Italian translation of Italian-Canadian literature since 2009 in different institutions in the United Kingdom, and she has been the president of the Association of Italian-Canadian Writers since 2016. Carmen Concilio is Associate Professor of English and Anglophone Literatures at the University of Torino, and she holds a PhD in English Studies from the University of Pisa. She is editor and co-editor of various scholarly works, namely Word and Image in Literature and the Visual Arts, published in 2016, and Imagining Aging, Representations of Age and Aging in Anglophone Literatures, published in 2018. She is a scholar in Canadian literature, and she has contributed to various Italian-Canadian publications. Her main field of research and expertise is literature and the arts and the environmental humanities. Welcome, Carmen Concilio. Over to you, Maria Cristina Seccia.
Grazie mille Licia, grazie direttore Francesco D'Arelli. Buonasera a tutti e a tutte, grazie per essere qui con noi stasera. I would like to briefly introduce the AICW, the Association of Italian-Canadian Writers, just in case some of you have never heard of it. So it's a no-profit organization which brings together not only Canadian writers of Italian origins, as its name may suggest, but also poets, artists whose works reflect the interaction between Italian and Canadian cultures, as well as critics, academics, translators, publishers who work on and promote the literary and cultural, Italian-Canadian literary and cultural production. So with a focus on Italian cultural origins, our association aims to give voice to only one of the several groups which are often called hyphenated and which enrich the Canadian literary and cultural panorama. So this year, our association celebrates its 34th anniversary, as it was founded in 1986. On the occasion of the first National Conference of Italian-Canadian Writers in Vancouver. And today we have the honor to have with us one of its founders, Professor Pietropaolo, who was also the first AICW president and is also the, I would say, the father of Italian-Canadian literary criticism. Since 1986, the association has played a crucial role in promoting Italian-Canadian literature, arts, and literary criticism through biannual conferences and other literary events, as well as the publication of volumes of literary and critical works. So at the end of this webinar, Dr. Licia Canton, who has been the president, the AICW president for 4 years and is still one of the most supportive members, will tell us something about the upcoming events which we are organizing. E ora passo la parola alla professoressa Carmen Concilio che ci presenterà brevemente, dirà qualcosa della conferenza, della prossima conferenza biennale che stiamo organizzando insieme e che si terrà appunto l'anno prossimo presso l'Università degli Studi di Torino. Grazie.
Grazie. Buonasera a tutte e a tutti. Vi mando il mio più caloroso benvenuto dall'Italia. Good evening from Torino, where it is 7 o'clock now and it's getting dark outside. I would like to start by saying that I'm very thankful to the Italian Institute in Montreal, to the director, Dr. Francesco D'Arelli, for hosting this presentation, and the Institute for taking care of the technological aspects. On behalf of the Italian Association for the Study of Literatures in English and the board of the association, and on behalf of the Department of Foreign Languages and Literatures of the University of Torino, I wish to thank Licia Canton, Dr. Maria Cristina Seccia, and Domenico Beneventi, with whom we've been cooperating over the past year to organize the 18th Biennial Conference of the Italian-Canadian Writers Association. Indeed, we all should have been here today in Torino at the university, but unfortunately, the COVID pandemic forced us to postpone the conference till next October. So it will take place on the 6th and 7th of October, 2021 in Torino. Thus, while waiting to meet you all here, while waiting for you to join us in our academic institution and to visit our city, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce some Canadian scholars, prose writers, poets, photographers, translators, artists, and intellectuals. I have already encountered you all in your books and studies, also thanks to the activities of the Italian Association for Canadian Studies, of which I am a member. But now, recently, I've had the chance to meet you personally and to appreciate better your artistic productions and your personalities. The purpose of this presentation tonight is to give the audience a taste, un assaggio, in this pre-conference official launch of inspiring and moving and rich presentations as an anticipation of what the audience will be able to enjoy and appreciate next year at the conference at the University of Torino. So thank you to all the organizers, to all the speakers of tonight, and to all the participants. Grazie di cuore a tutti e buon ascolto.
Grazie Carmen Concilio, grazie Maria Cristina Seccia. It's my pleasure now to introduce John Calabro and Arianna Dagnino. John Calabro was born in Sicily. He grew up in France and came to Canada as a teenager. John is an educator, a publisher, a cultural entrepreneur, and an author. He has published 3 novellas, Bellecour, The Cousin, and An Imperfect Man, short stories and articles as well. He was president and co-publisher of Quattro Books. He was president of AASC, producers of Inspire, Toronto International Book Fair. He was the vice president of AMIA, producers of Prism Prize, a music video award show. He is now retired. He continues to write, of course, but most importantly, he enjoys spending time with his grandchildren. John is fluent in English, French, and Italian. Welcome, John Calabro. Arianna Dagnino is a Canadian writer, lecturer, and literary translator of Italian origin. She has published books, both in Italian and in English, books of fiction and creative nonfiction, as well as on the impact of digital technologies and global mobility. Among them, The Afrikaner, a novel published in 2019, Transcultural Writers and Novels in the Age of Global Mobility, published in 2015, and Jesus Christ Cyberstar, At the Origins of the Internet, published in 2009. Together with her colleague, Dr. Ernest Matthys, she has also completed the screenplay based on her novel, The Afrikaner. Arianna teaches Italian studies, creative writing, and film adaptation as a sessional lecturer at the University of British Columbia. Welcome, Arianna Dagnino.
Thank you, Licia. It's my pleasure to introduce now Gianna Patriarca and Vincenzo Pietropaolo. Gianna Patriarca is an award-winning author of 8 books of poetry, a children's book, and a collection of short fiction. Her work is extensively anthologized, adapted for Canada stage and CBC radio dramas. Her books appear on the course list of numerous universities in Canada, the US, and Italy, and is featured in several documentaries. Italian Women and Other Tragedies is in its fourth printing and has been translated to Italian. The collection of short fiction, All My Fallen Angels, published by Inanna Publications in 2016, will soon be translated into Italian. To the Man Who Writes Goodbye Letters will be published soon by Inanna, and Selected and New Works This Way Home will be published in 2021. Gianna is currently working on her novel, The Sicilian Bride. Welcome, Gianna Patriarca. Vincenzo Pietropaolo was born in Italy and is a photographer and writer who began his artistic career by documenting the Italian immigrant community in Canada. He has distinguished himself as a photographic bookmaker, exploring social justice issues and combining photographs with his own original writing. He has published over a dozen books, including Not Paved with Gold, Italian Immigrants, Harvest Pilgrims, Migrant Farm Workers, and Invisible No More, Intellectual Disabilities. In May 2021, he will be published Toronto, 50 Years of Photographs, a humanistic chronicle of his adopted city. Pietropaolo has been in over 100 solo or curated exhibitions internationally, including a permanent exhibition in the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. Welcome, Pietropaolo, Vincenzo Pietropaolo. Can I take this opportunity to say that we'll keep all the questions for all the participants to the end? And then in the meantime, you are free to send your questions via our chat. Alternatively, you can ask them at the end in our question and answers session. Thank you. Thank you. And passo la parola a Carmen.
Grazie. So it is my pleasure to introduce now Professor Joseph Pivato, Professor Emeritus of Literary Studies at Athabasca University, where he taught courses in comparative literature that included Italian-Canadian authors. His MA and PhD are in comparative literature. He was born in Italy, and in 1985, he edited Contrasts, Comparative Essays on Italian-Canadian Writing, the first critical analysis of this emerging literature. He has published Echo, Essays on Other Literatures, 1994, The Anthology of Italian-Canadian Writing, 1998, and books on George Eliot Clark, Sheila Watson, Mary Di Michele, Caterina Edwards, Frank Paci, Pier Giorgio Di Cicco, and other authors. He is the founding president of the Association of Italian-Canadian Writers, 1986. And I must say that I'm enjoying reading one of his latest books, Comparative Literature for the New Century, a book he edited with Giulia De Gasperi. So welcome, Professor Pivato. Now I think it is your turn to introduce.
Thank you very much, Carmen. I realize, yes, I'm supposed to speak. I thought we were just going to be doing one more introductions. Okay, yes, I'm anxious to speak. Okay, thank you to the Institute and everybody for being here. I've been called the father of Italian-Canadian criticism. I don't know if I like that title, but anyway, like any father, I'm very worried about our children, okay? Writers all hope to be able to leave a legacy for following generations of readers. A way of measuring this legacy is by examining the critical response, the reception that their works receive in society and in universities in particular. My discussion that will take place next year, I guess, will trace the development of Italian-Canadian writing across Canada, the author's struggle to receive recognition in the literary institution. The literary institution is very complex. It includes literature professors such as myself, publishers, editors, book reviewers, journalists, bookstore owners, and so forth. And this reception is often manifested through awards, bookstore displays, book launchings, speakers at conferences, and also more recently, social media. I must also note that the individual writer may also exercise some influence in the recognition process, but this often depends on their professional position. For example, writers that have university positions have an advantage over other people. Urban location, it always pays to be in a big city, and cultural capital. It may also be affected by their appearance. And you know, I'm not worried about that. Given this context, I will try to determine what role Canadian universities play in the recognition of Italian Canadian authors and other ethnic minority groups. Okay. We have approximately 100 Italian Canadian writers, about 100 active writers who have been publishing for about 40 years, since about 1980, we start counting. Works in English, French, and in Italian, and also translating back and forth. 40 years of books, and I have a lot of copies. I could just display them right now if I wanted to, anthologies and so forth. But we still have now the existential